Hey, mi amigos, welcome back to Brian and Dylan Take on the World for just another great week of just some insightful nonsense. I am your co-host Dylan, here with Mia Moore, my good pal, comrade Brian. Brian, say hello to the familia.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Yeah, another, as you said, insightful week of nonsense. I really liked that. That's a good term, a good way to phrase the show.
Yes, I will no longer be flexing my Spanish language throughout the rest of this podcast as well.
Okay,
So
that's good.
that was
Yeah, I
that was
mean,
it.
I don't speak any Spanish, so for me, I was just like, all right, well, hopefully this is all positive stuff. I don't really know what Dylan's saying here.
Full disclosure, I kind of panicked when we first started. I didn't really know what to say, and I just
You
immediately
just
went
went
to
into
my
Spanish. All right,
Spanish.
fair enough.
Brian, man, what's up? This is how's your week been? How you doing? You know, I never ask you how you are. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. My week was good. I got to see Dark Phoenix in theaters, and it was fine. It was fun. You know, it's a real take it or leave it movie. But I felt like I was such a big fan of the X-Men for so long that I just needed to see the end of it, regardless of how good or bad it was going to be. You know?
That's probably the most positive review on Dark Phoenix I've heard
Yeah, that's
since
as
it's come out.
about as good as it gets.
So my week, you didn't ask me, but I'll just jump
Yeah,
in.
how was your week?
As I was, as I was explaining to you earlier, I discovered Parks and Rec. I'm
Oh yes.
officially on the Parks and Rec fan train, and I will say I'm loving it. When we last talked, I was finishing my third rewatch of The Office, and my new number one rule with The Office is when I'm rewatching it, I immediately end it when Michael Scott leaves.
That's
That's just
fair. Yeah.
that's where the show ends for me. And I was kind of looking, and I'm like, I don't know what my next show is going to be, and obviously Netflix being the great
Just
streaming
treasure
service
trove
it
of
is. Yeah, I was trying to think of a creative word. I
content.
couldn't. I'm speaking of trying to get into the mood. You hear this? You hear that? Hold on.
I did. I don't know what's happening, but I did
You
hear
hear
that.
that? We got another God's Nectar in this week's episode. The beer of the week this week is Bentwater Equivalent Exchange. If it ain't Bentwater, something else.
Yeah, it's definitely something else. I actually don't have any beer. I'm drinking some Coke, so that's good.
We
But
don't we
no
don't give
beer.
out we don't give out free advertisement. Please don't mention Coke.
Oh, sorry.
But Bentwater out of Lynn, Massachusetts. Shout out Bentwater.
We don't do free advertising except for Ben Water, of course.
Correct.
Yes.
Well,
So
my,
Ben
my,
Water.
my favorite craft beer. It's the thing that gives me man titties. It's what wakes me up on Saturday mornings with it completely just out of it and like, wow, I shouldn't have eaten that entire bag of Doritos after I had about 6 of those Bentwaters last night.
Oh man.
Anyway, yeah. So I discovered Parks and Rec after my third Office rewatch, and I will say I don't know what it took me so long to get into it because I've always seen like the gifs on Twitter, on Giphy, of Ron Swanson and the team down there at Pawnee, Indiana, and I will say I fucking love the show. I'm about towards the end of season 2. It's quickly becoming my favorite show ever, and I'm only like 30% done it, if that.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
I don't know if it's a hot take. Obviously, everyone loves The Office. It's probably the biggest show on the internet. I actually prefer Parks and Rec to The Office. I just felt like Parks and Rec had a more upbeat, positive comedy, whereas sometimes some of the comedy in The Office could either be mean spirited or just like incredibly like uncomfortable.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and I have legitimately laughed out loud. I think a lot more than I would have at this point into The Office, and I'm not saying I like this more than The Office. I'm just saying I do like this a lot. And during my Office rewatch, like you said, some mean spirited stuff, like the episode where Jim just throws a snowball at Dwight, like at point blank range, right in the face.
Right.
Rudest fucking thing ever. Did
Yeah.
not like that. And then Jim gets all sad and whiny like a little bitch whenever Dwight retaliates. Like you threw a snowball at this man from 2 feet away, right in the face.
Yeah, he could have taken his eye out. You know, this is not okay, Jim.
Here's another hot take. Fuck Jim.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick.
Jim after like season 3, fuck him. Yeah, Parks and Rec, man. Ron Swanson, quickly becoming one of my all-time favorite TV characters. He's who I aspire to be in I don't know, 20 years.
Yeah, man, just wait. Like, as it gets on, he's just continually amazing and hilarious. It's, God, I love that show. I can't believe you haven't seen it yet. This is exciting. I can't wait to hear as we keep going with the podcast your thoughts on it, you know?
Yeah, and it was one of the things I didn't even think about. Like, it was just like, this is recommended for you. I said, fuck it, let's do it. I did it. I love Amy Poehler. I love Aziz Ansari.
Mm-hmm.
I love the show. That's my weekly update. That's been going on this week.
Yeah, and like you said, the cast is so good. Aubrey Plaza, you know, last episode we talked about Child's Play. She's in that. She's on Parks and Rec, and then
certified fresh.
That's insane to me. We had it backwards. I had it backwards with Men in Black and Child's Play. I should have switched my see it and skip it.
I actually retract that statement. I don't know if it's technically certified fresh, but it's at least fresh, which is good enough for me.
But yeah, and then of course Chris Pratt, one of the biggest movie stars in the world right now. He's the goofy side character. On
so funny. So funny. He's been one of the main ones that have made me laugh out loud. Mm-hmm. So he is so funny in that show. And I can imagine people. I think the first time I saw Chris Pratt was in the movie Moneyball.
Yes.
He plays Shea Hillenbrand. That's kind of a name drop. Or no, Scott Hatberg.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he plays. Look for all you baseball heads out there. Shout out Nick Primo. I don't even know if he listens to this anymore. He will text me if he hears this though. So if he is listening and he texts me, I know he's listening. If I don't get a text, fuck him. Fuck Nick Primo.
Yeah, it's gonna put a strain on your friendship for sure.
For sure. He's the godfather of my daughter. Fuck him.
And he doesn't even listen to the podcast.
No, he's a good fellow. Anyway, yeah. I can imagine, like, if you're watching the show and, like, you first started the show before, like, you're watching in real time. Mm-hmm. Oh, this Chris Pratt guy, he's a sweetheart. That little chubby son of a bitch, he's real funny. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, he was cast as Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, he's playing that guy in Jurassic World, mm-hmm. which we may get to a little bit later. Total glow up. I'm very much looking forward to the season where all of a sudden he just comes back jacked, mm-hmm. which I've heard they like address it in the show too. I'm very much looking forward to that.
They do address it. You'll like it, I think. Because, yeah, I mean, it's hard to... It would have been really hard for him to get fat again in time for another season. You know what I mean?
Oh, I bet. And as someone who lives life fat, so much harder to get fat than to get skinny. I agree.
Oh, man. So, I can't wait to hear more about The Office, or rather Parks and Rec. If you want to talk about The Office, too, I'm always down for that. But... right now, Dylan, what is on the docket?
So today we're going to be talking a little bit of some box office numbers and movies that make a lot and sometimes don't make a lot, and movies that suck. We're going to be talking a lot about that. Maybe we'll hear about Dark Phoenix. Maybe we'll hear about Men in Black International. Maybe we'll hear about Pirates of the Caribbean, which we just discovered before we started recording this podcast, has one of the most absurd budgets for a movie I've ever seen before.
It's hard to believe it's real.
Hard to believe it's real. I can't wait to get to that. But first, something that I'm very passionate about. Mm-hmm. I wrote a fake hit piece on Zack Snyder in DC that I didn't post on our website, wikifiteverything.com, the blog that we've blogged sporadically, and by sporadically I mean once a quarter. We are talking about Batman today to start the show, and particularly Rob Pattinson being cast as Batman. I'm going to start out by saying I love that casting. I very much can't wait to look forward to it. Rob Pattinson is a fine actor. People who judge him only on Twilight, the Twilight series, clearly just haven't really paid attention to any of the work he's in, because he has been in some real good stuff. And I am very, very much looking forward. I mean, I'm tongue twisted just talking about it. I'm very much looking forward to Rob Pattinson as Batman. And I think that this new Batman movie is going to be pretty fucking good, just based on the things I've heard so far.
Yeah, so I think we're two... well, actually, I'm not going to say we're the only two. The internet's fairly split on this casting.
Very split. I'm actually surprised how split it is.
Yeah, some people are, like, real quick to just be like, the guy from Twilight, no way, fuck that. Like, this is dumb. Yep. But, like you said, he's done a lot of work outside of Twilight. He is a talented actor, and I'm all for this new interpretation. If Batfleck has to go away, I would like a new, fresh face that could potentially bring something interesting to the role. I know they were also testing Nicholas Hoult, who, has a connection to Dark Phoenix as he played Beast.
Oh,
And
the Beast. Ugh.
but I like Nicholas Hoult a lot too, so I wouldn't have been too upset for that. But that being said, I'm keeping an open mind for this casting.
What does suck is I was such a big Ben Affleck fan. I thought he was a really good Batman in a very very poor written universe. I actually got about 300 karma when I posted on the Batman forum when they're on Reddit when they were talking about Rob Pattinson being cast. I think Ben Affleck was the right Batman at the wrong time.
Right.
Which is like to me the best way to put it because I thought he was very good in the good Batman scenes in Batman vs Superman. I don't even want to discuss Justice League because Justice League is basically they tried to make Batman like the comedic relief, which you that's like you cannot do that.
Yeah,
Batman
that
is the
was a
last character that
strange
should
film.
be focused around comedy. I'm very big. I fuck Zack Snyder. He went through some very awful things that happened to him during the filming of Justice League, which that sucks. But I hope that he never has anything to do with another DC movie again. And as far as I know, apparently this is Matt Reeves' baby, the director of The Batman, who everyone would probably know. He directed all the Planet of the Apes movies, which were fine. They were probably above average. I did like them. I'm really, but I think this is Matt Reeves. Like he's writing it. They're taking whatever because originally Ben Affleck was supposed to write, direct, and star in this movie. I think they're taking. I think they threw away whatever was that Ben Affleck script, and I think Matt Reeves is just writing it himself, which is good. I guess if you're going to direct it and you're trying to make Batman your own, hopefully it has nothing to do with whatever they're doing with whatever the fuck they're doing with the DC universe right now. Like whatever's going on there. Hopefully it has nothing to do with it. And yeah, Rob Pattinson, Good Time, a great movie, which I think you can stream on Amazon Prime. Shout out Amazon Prime. Good Time is a movie that I saw that, and it's like an average, above average movie, but he is fucking excellent in that. I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't end up getting nominated for it. He's that good. And now he is going to be in The Lighthouse this year, which is apparently potentially going to be another Oscar type movie. It is directed by Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, which was one of my all-time favorite horror movies, which I think we might have talked about last week when I was talking about dramatic horrors when we were talking about Midsommar.
Right.
But anyway, Rob Pattinson, if you're judging him by Twilight, don't, because he has some other work where he is excellent.
Right. Judging by Harry Potter, you know.
Oh, Cedric Diggory, yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was fucking good as Cedric Diggory, I thought.
Dude, I was like this chubby like 12-year-old kid sitting in like a movie theater for The Goblet of Fire when Cedric died. I teared up a little bit.
Yeah,
I got super nervous that the girls that were not there with me, who probably weren't even looking at me, were gonna see me crying.
Oh no, no.
They did not.
Wow. I mean, they would have understood. I think.
Yes.
They wouldn't have judged you too hard for that. I think for Ben Affleck leaving the project, it makes sense. I mean, it's gonna be hard to go from, oh yeah, I'm going to write, direct, this is going to be my project, to bring someone else in and having your script thrown out. I feel like at that point it's like, oh, I don't really want to do this anymore. And then Henry Cavill might not even be Superman anymore. He's probably just like, yeah, what's the point?
That's what I mean. Like the DC universe itself is just even though they've had they've had two straight successes. I loved Aquaman. Shout out Aquaman, Brian, your favorite superhero.
Yes. But I haven't seen the movie yet. So.
Outrageous. We were supposed to go see it at the movie theater together, and Brian was sick and ruined my Christmas.
I'm quite sorry for that. Jason Momoa, Dylan, I let you guys both down.
You did. You sure did. I went to a movie theater where there was not assigned seating, and I had to wait in line by myself with my extra large root beer by myself, and I ended up going to the movie theater, and I went right, and for some reason everybody went left. Oh no! And I ended up sitting on the right side of the movie theater by myself. I think people thought I looked a little sketchy.
Oh man, nah, this makes it just feel even worse.
And then the other movie being Shazam. So Aquaman and Shazam, two back-to-back movies that got like pretty decent critical praise, made a shitload of money. Wonder Woman's obviously the other one that was a surefire. I don't think it made as much money as Aquaman. I think Aquaman passed Wonder Woman. But Wonder Woman was phenomenal, and I'm a big fan of Man of Steel too. Even though Zack Snyder directed it, I did love Man of Steel a lot, and I love Henry Cavill as Superman.
Yeah, like you said with Batman, or with Ben Affleck, right? Batman around time. Henry Cavill, literally the perfect Superman, just has nothing to work with.
So I like I said, I'm very happy about Rob Pattinson. I think he's great.
Mm.
My personal choice, who I thought would have been a great Batman, was actually Richard Madden, who is Rob Stark.
Mm.
I think that he could have made a great Batman, bulked up. He obviously has the look of Bruce Wayne,
Right.
like this suave, good-looking business mogul.
Mm.
Another person who I actually found out who originally tested to play Batman in Batman Begins was Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
And
that would have been interesting. I don't know if he would have done that, but
I think Henry Cavill somehow, I think he's a perfect Superman, somehow might be a better Batman / Bruce Wayne because he's big, he's got the look. I in an alternate universe, I like to think that that's going on somewhere.
right. It'll be interesting to see if Pattinson bulks up to like the degree Christian Bale did
Yep.
when he played, because that's like a pretty believable. And then Ben Affleck got huge, like super jacked to play
Yeah, he was
Batman,
big.
which
Yep.
I think you need to have that physicality in this role.
I think like the canon height and weight for Batman, I think he's like 6'2", like 230. Like he's a fucking he's a brick shithouse. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
And I only know that from the Arkham games when you get to go into like the profile
Mm.
of the heroes. And I think Batman's like 6'2", 230. He's a big SOB.
Mm-hmm.
But I like I said, I don't really have much of Matt Reeves' work other than really the Planet of the Apes movies, which I thought were fine.
Mm.
I thought the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was pretty good. I thought, but I guess we'll see. I think the rumored bad guys for this is going to be the Penguin and Catwoman,
Mhm.
which is kind of like people are immediately like, oh, Batman Returns.
Right.
Timber.
That's kind of tough to have both of the same. He's such a rogue gallery that should really go into it more.
As we've seen though, and we're going to go into this a little more later for a different discussion. Also, casting and writing mean more now than really anything else. Probably writing more so than anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially with one of the casts for one of the movies we're talking about is perfect, and they still made a not great movie.
Yeah.
So what can you do? Any chance this is connected to the Joker movie that's coming out?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's a little too like the time wouldn't really match up considering Alec Baldwin's playing Bruce Wayne's dad.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we could ever have a Joaquin Phoenix versus Robert Pattinson movie.
I think it would be interesting. But like the Joker already looks like he's like 30, 40 in the Joker.
Mm.
So I mean, you fast forward 20 years later, you're gonna have a potentially 60-year-old Joker fighting the Batman.
Mm.
I don't think so. I think this Joker movie is just a one-off, which I will say I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks great. Phoenix is one of my favorite actors out there. I think it's gonna be great, but no, I don't think it'll be connected. But we'll see.
Yeah.
If both of them make a shitload of money, I could totally be saying, all right, this is the Joker
Push
now.
them together. Yeah. Sorry.
I think no, I was gonna say I think Matt Reeves is approved for trilogy at the least. So
right. I mean, I will say when I was watching Dark Phoenix, obviously the trailer for the Joker came up, and I was just like, damn, that looks like one good ass movie.
mm-hmm.
So
It's gonna be great.
Excited.
It's like it seems like very like noir, like very Taxi Driver-esque. Like it looks like I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to everything coming up Batman after having a very sketchy 3 to 5 years. I think that Batman, who in my opinion is the most important superhero,
For DC.
in general.
Oh, in general.
I think Batman surpasses like Spider-Man too
Mm.
for like just the most beloved / like I think everybody will go see a Batman movie.
Well,
You know what
yeah. I mean, he had some solid ass Tim Burton movies, and then obviously the Nolan trilogy is just amazing.
Yep.
Completely. Still, no superhero movie. Still, I think has just had like the talent of filmmaking. That went into like the Dark Knight.
No, the Dark Knight, like that trilogy is by itself. It's the Dark Knight to me is oddly enough. I think it's probably. I think I talked about this. It's my second favorite superhero movie. I think I ended up passing it, but I still think the Dark Knight is above it for one of my all-time favorite movies. If that makes any sense at all.
Kind of.
If it makes sense in my
right.
mind.
Well, that's all that matters, really. All right. Do we want anything else about Robert Pattinson?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I don't want to keep rambling on for whoever's still listening.
All right, well then let's get into the main topic. Dylan, what are we covering today?
Yeah, so we're discussing movies such as Dark Phoenix and Men in Black International, which are the two most relevant movies to bring up this topic. But we're really talking about movies that are franchises that are basically just making movies to make money at this point, regardless of how shitty they are.
And now it's not working anymore.
No, now it's not working. Well, he can talk about a movie that had a ridiculous budget where apparently it sort of worked. But yeah, I mean, you see Dark Phoenix. I mean, if you kind of want to get into that, Dark Phoenix, $200 million budget.
And so much for what this movie was.
$200 million, and only ended up making worldwide so far $232 billion. Almost about, I want to say $233 billion, which is, it's made a budget, but a $33 million. I'm sorry, it made a profit, but a $33 million profit is awful.
Yeah, you don't know how much they spent on marketing and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So realistically, the budget is probably more than what they're saying it is.
Yep.
So $33 million, that's not really cutting it.
No.
Especially only $60 million in the U.S. That's terrible. That's like
awful.
What you could expect for an opening weekend for most X-Men movies. And while I did not think it was so bad that it warranted everyone staying away like they clearly have, I think it was just not good enough for anyone to care, you know? No one gave a shit about this movie.
But definitely, two things didn't help Dark Phoenix. One was that the Disney merger already went through before this movie came out. And so everyone basically knows that this storyline, these characters don't matter. Because in however long it takes for Disney to make to introduce the X-Men at least to the MCU, none of these characters are going to matter. The storyline doesn't matter. None of this matters. And the second part is that Apocalypse just wasn't that good either.
Apocalypse was worse than this movie, in my opinion. I think it was more offensive than just how much it was like, man, you've wasted like everything. Like Oscar Isaac, you wasted him. Like, why would you have him if you're just gonna have this kind of bland villain? Like Olivia Munn, you didn't even let talk in the movie. You know, like again, you make Magneto bad just to turn good again. Like you've given up on Mystique being a bad guy to the point where she's just a hero. Like it's not interesting. That's not what we liked from the original trilogy, or at least the original 2 movies. Yeah, it just felt like a giant movie with no soul to it. You know what I mean?
Which I think is part of, excuse me, which is part of the in my opinion, the huge win for comic book fans. The fact that Disney got this, because even though Disney has put out like maybe 1 or 2 stinkers, and even then, if you're calling Iron Man 2 and The Incredible Hulk stinkers, they're probably still better than most other comic book movies that were done by other producers.
Right.
This is, if you're a fan of comic book movies, I think it's huge that Disney got them. One, it's going to now be introduced to the MCU, which is the biggest movie universe in the world and the most beloved, and they've done the most things right, which DC did everything wrong while MCU was doing everything right. So Disney now has the Fantastic Four, which their last movie is regarded as one of the worst movies ever. They now have X-Men, which X-Men I would argue is probably, I don't want to say bigger than the Avengers, but I think before the movies came out, I'd say probably the X-Men were bigger than like the Avenger story arcs. If that makes, because like Civil War and the Infinity Wars comic book lines were obviously huge, but I still think the X-Men, the thing that gets lost with the X-Men too is the X-Men in the movies pretty much kicked off like the modern superhero movies.
Oh, no doubt. They're hugely instrumental. We wouldn't have what we have now if it wasn't for X-Men.
Pretty much between the X-Men and I think it came out like 2000, 2001, and Tim Burton's Batman. Like those 2 movies pretty much shaped modern superhero movies, and obviously they've still evolved so much. But without that first X-Men movie, which the comic book movies are pretty much like laughed at that point. And look how like fucking goofy, like even though I loved them, like the Batman Return, Batman. I'm sorry, Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin. Like, look how just silly and fucking goofy those movies were, and like
Yeah.
those were all we had. And even like the Superman movies are just so campy and just so cheesy. With Tim Burton's Batman, they at least started to go dark, and they started to involve a little more action. And then obviously with X-Men, we got pretty dark. I mean, the movie starts out with a concentration camp. I would argue that's pretty dark.
Yeah, we got wardrobes heavily inspired by the Matrix.
Yep.
With all that leather.
Oh yeah.
We got interesting, damaged characters. I mean, Rogue can't even touch people. Like, her fucking superpower is that she drains people's life forces. It's horrible. It's horrible. Wolverine, he can't die. Like, it's just dark, interesting themes that led up to more dark, interesting themes in future movies,
Sounds like my ex-wife. Drains the life out of people and can't die.
Oh, boy.
I was never married, nor do I have an ex-wife.
Right. So
from my future ex-wife.
For the record.
Oh, and if Rachel's listening to this, which we'll find out if she does or not with that comment. So.
Oh, man.
So hot seat, Rachel and Primo.
Oh,
but,
man.
No, the Dark Phoenix, I do feel like also, apparently Dark Phoenix is just not a good movie, even though you said it was fine. I do think that even if this was a really good movie, I do think it was not in its favor to be successful. And like I had no fucking interest going to see Dark Phoenix. I really did not. Like I just, especially after Apocalypse, because I love Days of Future Past. I love that. Logan,
that is my favorite superhero movie. Period.
Oh.
Days of Future Past. I love it. I saw it 3 times in like 3 days when it came out. I fucking love that movie.
All right. Well, it was great. And then I didn't end up seeing Apocalypse in the movie theater, not because I thought it was shitty, but because like I just didn't end up going to see it. And then I ended up catching it on like HBO one day. It's like, wow, this sucks. Like, this is not good. I get what people are talking about. I don't know. And I also like Sophie Turner. She's awesome. Obviously, Game of Thrones. She's great. And even I like the kid that plays Cyclops too from Ready Player One.
He is probably better in Ready Player One than he is in either of his X-Men movies, to be honest.
Best podcast we ever recorded that was never heard. Ready Player One. Shout out us.
Hey, it's out. It's out. People can go back and listen to what we thought about that movie.
I just don't
recorded twice.
I just don't think that they're very interesting, like, actors for that role, I guess. And also the same. So a very, very funny thing. I'm going to pull this up, and I heard this on a separate podcast, which we don't shout out other podcasts. The director of this movie, Simon Kinberg, also directed. I'm pretty sure. Hold on.
He wrote Last Stand. If that's what
thank you for correcting. He wrote Last Stand. And Last Stand was regarded as one of the worst superhero movies ever. Well, Last Stand was absolute dog shit. It did the entire Phoenix storyline wrong, and so of course Fox, which is just why Fox no longer has these properties, because people are like, just get it away. Right. That shitload of money, obviously. So you bring the writer of X-Men Last Stand, who that main plot of that story was the Phoenix storyline, which they did in Dark Phoenix. You bring that person who wrote that movie on to do Dark Phoenix, the movie that is basically that is redoing Last Stand.
Yeah.
The Last Stand, which is shitty, you're bringing on as the director, the writer that wrote that movie. I'm getting like tongue tied. I feel like Charlie Kelly in that, and Always Sunny when he has all the Frank Pepe things. Not Frank Pepe.
The
Pepe
strings. Yeah.
That's what I feel like.
I know. I agree, and I think I can chime in. I mean, the hope was that he was going to do Dark Phoenix right. The hope was that studio interference that forced him to add the Cure storyline into Last Stand was really what detracted from him focusing on the Dark Phoenix saga in that movie. But he had a second shot at it. I mean, and how many times would you get one, let alone 2 shots at this storyline, and to just whiff twice? It's pretty hard to take.
So, like, this guy can probably never make another superhero movie again.
I mean, we'll probably see him get hired to write, like, the Dark Phoenix in the MCU at this point. It's like you just fail upwards sometimes.
Because he also was a producer on Fantastic Four, the newer one. which
Yeah, he
obviously.
supposedly directed a lot of the reshoots after their director for that movie kind of lost his mind.
So clearly, I mean, I guess we'll see. Clearly, hopefully he's not going to touch any new superhero movies. He was a producer on Deadpool 2, which we loved.
Hmm.
I'm looking at his IMDb page right now. Produced Logan, but I wonder if like the production role is just because one, he's with Fox, and two,
He's just
he's
like
just
involved with the X-Men.
yeah, because
Yeah.
he does X-Men Apocalypse, obviously Deadpool, the Fantastic Four. Yeah, man, it's uh
He's not Kevin Feige. We'll put it that way.
no,
He may be similarly involved in their universe, but he's not. He doesn't have the
he's
knowledge and talent.
arguably the opposite.
I think what's really bad for this movie too is Logan. Obviously, the Deadpool movies came out since Apocalypse, but people don't really like associate the Deadpool movies with mainline X Men. All you have is Colossus, and then there was like a cameo of this cast in Deadpool 2, which I
Mhm.
thought was really funny, personally. But you don't really associate Deadpool, and honestly, they could just keep making Deadpool movies even in the MCU and just never address, just keep it in the X Men universe that they've established. It'd be fine.
Yep.
But a lot of people who like X Men casually probably like saw Logan and were like, "Oh, okay, so that's the end."
Yep.
Obviously, like fucking Professor X mind killed everybody except for Logan, and then Professor X and Logan both died. So this would be the end. And then it's like, oh no, actually, here's a prequel in a different timeline or maybe the same timeline. It's not really clear anymore. And you should care about Professor X again, even though he's dead in that other movie.
We're now going to end up going on to most likely. I'm like 99% sure they're going to end up recasting the X Men and the Fantastic Four and all that.
Oh
Well,
yeah, they
well,
have
one
to.
they have to do the Fantastic Four because Michael B. Jordan is Johnny Storm and he's also Killmonger and another thing. So they have to recast Fantastic Four. That
Yeah.
movie was just fucking terrible anyway. So that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I don't think anybody from that movie has any interest in reprising their roles either.
No, why? Yeah, why would they?
Yeah, it just didn't seem like a good time was had by anybody.
No, and I think the big thing, and we'll kind of go into like the Men in Black too. I think the big thing is that it's a little bit different between Men in Black and something like Dark Phoenix.
Mm.
I just think that these studios are hoping that these movies are going to carry the weight they did maybe like 5-10 years ago,
Mm.
where if you release a superhero movie, someone's going to see it. But I don't think that the comic book genre is dead. Clearly, it's not because usually once a year, whatever movie comes out ends up crossing $1 billion. Obviously, the Avengers is most likely going to end up beating Avatar with this re-release,
Mm-hmm.
which is all fair because Avatar re-released too. People forget that.
Yeah, no one mentions that. It's fine. We'll mention it. We got Endgame's back on this one.
I just think that people now realize the difference between good movies and bad movies, where maybe like 5-10 years ago we didn't, because I think that, and probably like 30 to 50 years, people are going to look back on this like the comic book genre in general is going to end up being what like westerns are to our grandparents.
Right.
I think there's going to end up being this whole channel that is going to be, you're going to have to pay $20 for a month, and all the olds, and we'll be old then, you're going to end up getting, it's just going to be all these superhero movies back to back, because they can't keep this going forever.
No.
Because they can't keep doing with Dark Phoenix. They can't keep rebooting the storyline, just hoping eventually it's going to end up getting right. People are eventually just going to be bored with it, which kind of sucks, because with the X-Men basically have like 3 good movies. And I do think the X-Men are, one, the most realistic storyline they have to tell, and 2, just Wolverine is one of the best superheroes out there. Which also it's gonna be real tough for people to replace Hugh Jackson as Wolverine.
Yeah, the only thing they can do, honestly, is like just try to cast someone who looks exactly like the comic book character.
Yeah.
And be like, well, we just wanted to go like more traditional route, like, that no one's gonna like the person at first, and it's gonna be a real uphill battle for him to gain like the public's love. But I mean, if you get offered that, I don't think anyone would pass it up. To be a Wolverine in the MCU is just gonna be like really big shoes to fill.
I do want to say I said Hugh Jackson. His name is that was the former coach of the Cleveland Browns. His name is Hugh Jackman.
Oh man, yeah, a little bit different people on that one.
Although Hugh Jackson as Wolverine is something to think about.
I mean, maybe people, maybe in the MCU, who knows? I don't think he has a job right now, so
that should be the thumbnail for this pod. Is Hugh Jackson as
his face on Wolverine's body.
Which also, I guess, like if we're now gonna let's get into a little side discussion real quick. Who's someone you can think about that would be a good Wolverine?
Oh man, so that's tough.
So do you want me to do? I have
yeah.
mine
Do you have
right
someone off the top of your head?
I don't know how this would work.
Think about it.
Henry Cavill, Wolverine. Henry Cavill is just gonna play like every person.
He has the body for it, for sure.
He is going to play James Bond, maybe. He is going to play Batman in an alternate universe. He is playing The Witcher, Geralt of Rivia, in the TV series. That's
gonna be so dope.
He shit. Was Superman. I think he would be a pretty good Wolverine. You've seen him when he's mad. He's pretty hairy too. You give him like that little like weird side spike hair. I can see him as Wolverine.
Yeah, I think you're definitely gonna need a shorter type actor. I don't know how tall Henry Cavill is, but
I think Henry Cavill's like 6'5".
Yeah, so that's a problem. Just because oh my god, you got me messing it up now. Hugh Jackman has the tall, like super ripped look. You probably want, I won't say fat, but a chunkier guy.
He's bulky.
A thick dude.
Yeah,
2 C's.
Although those shirts off scenes, he was fucking ripped.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He was ripped.
Yeah, and Man of Steel when he's on that like oil rig.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're getting sidetracked. Yeah. So
we're just gonna talk about people's 6-packs now. That's what the podcast is about.
This is a free roam podcast. If you're still listening, God bless you. Yeah, and the shirts off scenes. Yeah, he's hairy, he's big. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we can. I'll think about it a little bit more. I don't know if they should really just cast an unknown.
Yeah.
But hey, we'll see what happens. But I do think in terms of what you were talking about, where people are like, oh, well, people will go see it because it's X-Men. People will go see this because it's Men in Black. I think the last movie I can really remember just getting by on name alone was Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
That made a shit ton of money. That movie, I enjoyed it quite a bit. A lot of people did not like it at all. But it made so much money just because it's fucking Batman and Superman in the same movie, and Wonder Woman's there.
Yep.
Like, how could it not? But I think that really burned people, honestly. I think Justice League saw it super hard because they were like, oh yeah, no, that other movie wasn't that great, but I went to see it. This movie has bad reviews. You know what? I'm just not going to see it this time. And now we've started to see that trend with other films.
Do we think that there's even a chance that the MCU somehow brings back Hugh Jackman?
No, I think he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Probably.
I think it's just so hard to be in that kind of shape,
Because even, like, I guess year-wise, he has to be probably the longest tenured superhero there is, even more than, like, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, I mean, he did it for, like, at least 8 years before Robert Downey Jr. started playing Iron Man, and then they both just recently stopped, so...
Yep.
Yeah, he definitely has to be, and he was in so many movies. Oh, he was even in Deadpool 2. I think it was just archive footage, but he was there. He's not in Dark Phoenix, though. Obviously. Even though he could have been, because he wouldn't have been dead in the timeline.
I was shocked when I saw him in Apocalypse. Not to keep getting sidetracked with Hugh Jackson.
I know, that was weird. It was fucking just randomly in Apocalypse. Yeah, I don't know. They used Hugh Jackson as a... They used Hugh Jackman as a crutch, kind of, to get, like, past things.
That was the coolest part of that movie, yeah. Was to see an uncaged Wolverine just fucking obliterating people. That was great.
Yeah, it's always fun. But yeah, it's, the name appeal doesn't have it. And I mean, look no further than Men in Black International. We both thought this movie was going to be pretty decent, right? We both said see it.
We both unfortunately did say see it, yes, in our last pod.
And we could not have been more wrong. I mean, it got putrid reviews, and it only grossed how much for worldwide?
So World it ended up doing so far 182 million.
On a budget of 110 million.
Yes.
That's not great. That's maybe a little bit better than Dark Phoenix, but I mean, this had fucking Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson in it. How did you make a bad movie with
So I
those
mean,
two?
it's also this is the big thing. The big thing that plays into a lot of this is overseas. It's like I feel this has only made 52 million domestically. It's made 129 million overseas. And overseas is what really what the difference is. We talked about it with things like Lion King, Spider-Man. Like overseas is what makes the difference. For Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Star Wars: The Force Awakens made $936 million. And what we say Dark Phoenix has done, U.S. only 60 million.
Yes, just a little bit over 60 million.
So to put it in perspective, Star Wars did almost 900 million more than what Dark Phoenix has done so far.
Unreal.
And so Star Wars has beat Avengers Endgame. Is it Avengers Endgame? Star Wars has beat Avengers Endgame almost $100 million more domestically. But Avengers Endgame overseas has Star Wars: The Force Awakens beat by 800 million. That doesn't seem right. Yeah, 800 million. That is right.
Right. I mean, hey, Avengers Endgame is huge, and it has such appeal overseas, whereas Star Wars doesn't. Do you think Will Smith not being in Men in Black really hurt this franchise? Because I think people, probably even more than Tommy Lee Jones, associate the Men in Black movies with Will Smith.
Probably. I don't think like I said, I liked Men in Black 3. I don't think Men in Black 3 was well loved. I'm not even gonna bother trying to pull it up just to see how it did money wise. I'm just scrolling down now. It's not even like in the top 100, I don't think, which is like saying something this day and age. It obviously would have helped, obviously. Like Will Smith has the star power, probably unlike really anyone else in Hollywood. Everyone loves and knows Will Smith. Will Smith has made some fucking stinkers though. You know, Will Smith has been in some really bad movies. I think technically Will Smith only has like 2 or 3 movies that he's starred in that are certified fresh from Rotten Tomatoes.
That's insane. Holy shit.
Yeah, it obviously would have helped, but like I guess how much would it have helped? You know, because what's Will Smith's salary? At least like 20 million at least. I don't know how much he pulls in. I mean, and Chris Hemsworth is one of the biggest stars on the planet right now. So it would have helped, but apparently the movie was that neither of us have seen it. If it was as bad as they're saying it is, then I don't know. I also just don't think that I just don't know how much people care about Men in Black anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was even thinking when the 2012 movie came out, Men in Black 3, I was like, we're still doing this? We're still doing Men in Black? Okay, and that's fucking 7 years ago from now. You know, and now it's like, okay, really? We're still doing Men in Black?
And like the first one, obviously, like the 90s, like you had a fresh idea in the 90s that was sci-fi related, like you were golden. And the first Men in Black is great. I think it came out in like 97 or whatever. It was, everyone loves the first Men in Black. Second one, arguably bad. The third one, arguably terrible. And this one apparently is awful. So in like the reviews I've heard on it, like through podcasts, say that like they far too much rely on Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson's chemistry, which obviously is one of the things we love from the Avengers series and Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and like I said on I can't believe I ended up saying see it, and this is obviously in hindsight, but like this just looked like it could potentially just be awful.
Right.
Like the trailers, like none of the trailers wooed me, and that's the other thing with Men in Black. Like I know it by name alone. You know what I mean? Like if I would just see a trailer for this and not know what Men in Black is, I probably would still be like, this looks like shit.
Yeah, I think because they were so good in Avengers, I was like, oh, you know, they're obviously gonna be good. It's gonna be a good movie, right? It's gonna be fine. But no, it was not fun.
And this kind of just gets into like the main point of this whole discussion. It ends up being that I think 10 years ago you get by on franchises. I think people flock to see them. And the movie that we're kind of talking about earlier that had a ridiculous budget was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Stranger Tides. It ended up having a budget of about $400 million, which it's the most expensive movie ever made.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that, man. I could not. I'm still in disbelief. That's what the fuck. What they spent $400 million on?
And it ended up grossing $1 billion, billion plus, which is just like absurd because that movie is not good at all.
Right.
Like it just, and like I said, it came out in 2011, and I think a movie like Dark Phoenix or even maybe Men in Black probably pulls in that money. And even what were we saying with Solo when we reviewed Solo last year? Like Solo, which I thought was a good movie, was still technically compared to everything else Star Wars was like a failure, was a flop.
Yeah, and I think that honestly had a lot to do with just like it's a contentious issue, obviously, and I'm not like passionate about it, but I did not think The Last Jedi was very good. And there's a lot of people who don't have a movie podcast who are like, "Oh, I didn't really like The Last Jedi. I'm not going to see Solo." You know?
Which is crazy because Star Wars is the one thing where you're going to pull in people that have both never seen a Star Wars movie before, and you have the other people that obviously have seen every Star Wars movie 10 times. And I do think, maybe with Solo was one of the things where you had one people that were in protest not going to see it because they dared have somebody else other than Harrison Ford play Han Solo.
Yeah, that was dumb. But I'm sure people were like, "No, I'm not doing that."
Like Solo was obviously not the best movie we've ever seen, but we both really liked it. And I don't know. I think the franchise, it's a combination between the comic book movie genre starting to be dried out, and also franchises alone. Everything needs to be a franchise now. Like they're trying to make like that monster franchise with like Frankenstein, Dracula, the fucking Mummy, and all that. Like who wants that? No one wants.
Man. We should do like a video on that, like in the style of that Avengers video we did. Just like what their idea was to make this dark universe and
just
how
like
it failed.
Who wants who like I hate when people say this on the internet, like who asked for this? Like just be a complete dickhead, but like who actually asked for a dark universe with Frankenstein, the Mummy, Dracula? Like no one wanted this. Not even that. The Mummy movie was awful. I didn't even see it. It was just I'm just saying it's awful based on I've never heard a positive thing about it.
They had like Bride of Frankenstein too, like Angelina Jolie was gonna play that. They did like promotional photo shoots with all of the actors and stuff.
Yeah.
It was bad. I guess they did do that with the Fantastic Four and X-Men as well, and fucking Channing Tatum awkwardly as Gambit that never happened.
Sure did. Hey, that Gambit movie's coming eventually.
Eventually, maybe Marvel will have a change of heart and greenlight it as the first X-Men movie. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's like studios are understanding the importance of a continuous story. They understand that audiences have matured to the point where they will, follow a series for how many? 22 movies in Endgame, in the Avengers. But they're missing the part where you got to make a good movie first. They're just not doing that.
A prime example, and I hate to keep beating a dead horse, is Game of Thrones. I think I really think that the writers thought that they could write like a mediocre and like questionably shitty season and just hope that like the fandom, because they're fans of the show, would just get behind it. And clearly they didn't. I think that writing now, so more than ever with all the streaming platforms, everyone that's just like now like a movie whiz, everyone that has a shitty podcast like us, shout out us,
people like us,
not shitty. I'm just trying to be generous and for everyone else. It's everyone's like a movie expert now, but also like I do think that a lot more people pay attention to writing, a lot more people pay attention to cinematography, a lot more people pay attention to things like score and all that, which is great. I do think I think more now than ever, the common moviegoer knows and cares more about movies than ever before, which is awesome. Like I hope the movie theater going experience, I hope things like the Oscars are around forever, because they're my favorite things. I love I love sports. I love movies more than sports. I love it more than really any TV show. Like movies, like going to the movie theater, the award shows, talking about movies. Clearly, is one of my favorite things. But people are more knowledgeable now, and I don't know if they were like that 10, 15, 20 years ago. And the internet obviously has a huge deal to do with that because people obviously they'll get on Reddit, they'll get on Twitter, they'll be like, oh, this movie sucks. I'm not even gonna bother going to see this. I'm now going to go to this craft brewery instead and use my money that way.
Yeah, they're competing against not only movies, but now there's just so much content out there. So much content for reasonable prices and so much content like on YouTube for free, like on podcast services for free. You know, you can really have your pick of what you want and you're not kind of stuck seeing, oh, well, this movie came out and there's really nothing to do this weekend, so I'll go watch that. It's like, no, they'll stay home and they'll binge Chernobyl, or Jessica Jones just came out with their newest season. Like, there's tons and tons of options, and if everyone other than Disney, obviously the Pirates series notwithstanding, stops putting like a ton of effort into their franchises, I'm a little concerned because I love Disney movies. I love the Avengers, but I don't want Disney to own everything. And it's starting to look like they're just going to be able to buy all the franchises off of everyone else.
And there are fans. Shout out Brian Wong. Here's our weekly pod. Shout out. Our pal Brian Wong. Basically, he's one of the people that has seen every MCU movie in the movie theater. But every time after he sees it, something like Captain Marvel or something average, he'll say, like, you know, I probably wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't part of the MCU. Right. Fair. Brian's one of the people that it has to be a movie where it's both going on name and you kind of know it's going to be good for him to go to the movie theater. We're both kind of in a different league. We're like, we have the movie pass.
Yeah, AMC A-list, you know, not a big deal.
I enjoy, and the other thing that Brian brought up, Brian Wong, he basically said that like he kind of hates the movie theater atmosphere, which
man, I'm the exact opposite.
I think we're both the exact opposite, but I also think that he probably shares a similar mentality too. I would say like most of our generation, and it's a weird thing to compare it to. I think a lot of it has to do with you deal with a lot of people on phones now, which sucks because like you always get that one asshole in the theater that has his phone on.
Right.
Unfortunately, you have the threat of like someone in here is going to have a gun and just kill us all.
That's always in the back of everyone's mind.
Which you didn't have that 10, 15 years ago. And that's just life now. And also like getting up off your couch. Like Brian Wong lives in Boston. Getting up off your couch, taking an Uber or the T or whatever to go to this movie theater that's fucking only 3 miles away, but also a 30-minute Uber or T ride.
Listen, you don't want to get on the fucking T if you don't have to. Fuck MBTA transport. I hate it so much. Anyways, sorry, Dylan.
No, you sound like the other Brian Wong, who also like he doesn't take the T either. Shout out Brian Wong.
It sucks. I feel you, Brian fan. Wong. Jesus Christ.
So like I like for me I'll drive 30 minutes to go to the movie theater. I think there's two different mindsets, but I think people like Brian Wong and they're more like I need a reason to have to go to the movie theater. Like Dark Phoenix. I don't think this is going to be good. I didn't really like Apocalypse. Why the fuck would I go to the movie theater to see this? And I don't think
that's fair.
I don't think that was like that 10 years ago. I was telling you earlier, I actually went and saw Pirates of the Caribbean, Stranger Tides. The last movie I ever saw exactly at midnight was that movie.
Yeah. Also, big shout out to theaters not making us go at midnight and starting the movies at like 7 the night before.
Best thing ever. Seeing a movie at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, like the very first showing. I'm going to see Spider-Man Far From Home at 9:30 in the morning. The day it comes out, 9:30 in the morning. I'm having fucking breakfast while seeing Spider-Man Far From Home. That's like, and shout out AMC A-list. I'm going to see that with part of my A-list.
Right.
So, but I'm still, even with A-list, more selective. And that's kind of like the whole point. Like, I'm now not going to see Dark Phoenix. And even though I have A-list, I'm not going to see Dark Phoenix because I know it's a shitty movie. Even though you say it's okay, I'm still not going to see it.
I said it's fine. I think fine's below okay.
Men in Black International, zero chance. I almost probably won't ever even see that. Like, I won't even rent that for pay-per-view. I mean, that's like an FX movie that I'll see one day and be like, oh, haha, yeah, Chris Hemsworth. Right. Awesome. And 10 years ago, I guarantee you, people are flocking to the movie theater on a Friday night to see Men in Black International because they know the name Men in Black. They're flocking to the movie theater to see X-Men Dark Phoenix because they know the X-Men. They're fucking going to the midnight premieres of Pirates of the Caribbean, Stranger Tides. And given Pirates of the Caribbean is better than the first two movies we just named, even though I haven't seen both of them, I can just tell just based off reviews. Like people, people are both greedy and smart now because people like Brian Wong, he can say, "Oh, I can go see fucking Dark Phoenix and take this 30-minute Uber ride into downtown Boston, or I can stay home and watch something like a rerun of Parks and Rec, or I can watch Into the Spider-Verse for the second time."
Right.
Like, and I think people are obviously much more choosing to do that now, and just like you said, the options now are endless, and I hope, I really do hope that studios now start, and on another pod, actually I'll say Lights Camera Barstool, which is my favorite movie pod, and we both listen to them. Shout out them. They give me a lot of. I kind of rip them off a lot, but that's okay. Like my scoring system and all that, but no, that's all right. People like them, like they review Dark Phoenix. They have to go see every single movie, and I feel like now more than not, everything they reviewed. It's like so much harder to find a positively reviewed movie these days because these companies, and I completely forgot the point I brought up, like in the Barstool. Now I just remembered they had an interview with the guy with Matthew Vaughn, who directed Kingsman: Secret Service and who also was a producer on Fantastic Four and I think First Class.
He directed First Class.
He directed First Class, and I think he might have produced Last Class or Days of Future Past and Apocalypse.
Right. Yeah, because Bryan Singer came back for those, but now we don't really talk about Bryan Singer anymore because fuck that dude, you know.
And he basically said like the studios took over the direction these movies were going so much, and I really think that this is I think this is a combination with happened with DC too, between Zack Snyder just not knowing what he's doing, just not being that great of a filmmaker, and the studios so desperately trying to catch up to the MCU. I think, and Matthew Vaughn even admitted like with Fantastic Four, he told the studio like, this is shit, we have to change something. They're like, no, like we just got to get this out, it'll make money. And what did it do? It ended up getting out. It did not make money. It's regarded as one of the worst like superhero movies, arguably one of the worst movies ever. It's awful, it's terrible. X-Men Days of Future, I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. First Class and Days of Future Past, good movies. Get it to Apocalypse. He said Apocalypse is going to be a shitty movie. Like, you have to change something. They said no. They said we just need to get this out. We need to make money. And studios now, they clearly can't do that anymore. Dark Phoenix is a flop. Even like the movie we love, Solo, was a flop. Like, you have to do more than just go by name recognition and stuff. Men in Black, dude. No, who gives a shit about Men in Black International anymore? Now that I know it's a bad movie, I will never think about Men in Black International after we talk about it here today. Like Go ahead. No, I've been rambling for 2 minutes.
I just wanted to bring up Fantastic Four because I like had a vague memory that it had a single-digit tomato meter. It has a 9% and an 18% audience score.
18% audience score. The audience score is what I go by the most. 18% is probably the lowest I've ever seen.
Ever. Like, I've never seen something so bad.
I think The Room by Tommy Wiseau has both higher tomato score and audience score than that.
I mean, that's definitely a crowd pleaser, though. It's unfair to compare anything to The Room.
That's comparing apples to like Gunsmoke, buddy. Like, that's like The Room. Love it.
I mean, it certainly has its appeal, and I think it's become like ironically a beloved film. It has a 26 and a 46, so yeah, higher. Straight up, The Room, one of the worst movies of all time. Like,
it's awful.
Accepted by everybody.
It is the worst movie I've ever seen, but I love it so much. But
it's a much higher, but on both scores.
Well, that's a different. We're comparing apples to fucking like clams in the sea. Like, it's just like that movie was made to be bad. It was made by a lunatic that's either from like Soviet Russia, or he says he's from Louisiana, which Tommy Wiseau. Okay, I call bullshit on that.
He's maybe from another planet called Louisiana, but he's not from the state.
that makes the most sense.
I don't know, but I love Tommy Wiseau. So
to get back to talk, even like I don't know how much money the past Pirates of the Caribbean movie made, but like, who gives a fuck about Pirates of the Caribbean anymore? Like, who cares? The Stranger Tides sucked. The what was the final one?
Dead Men Tell No Tales.
No, the third one. the world.
Oh,
Whatever.
at World's End.
At World's End, that movie kind of sucked too. Like, so, and I think the gap between Stranger Tides and that was something like between 3 or 5 years, something like that.
Like, yeah, like 2007 to 2011, I think.
The end discussion of this all is that people are no longer going to see movies just because the name is on it. Now people are like, whatever the next X-Men movie gets released by Marvel is, I'm gonna flock to the theater to see that because Marvel has that. It's Marvel's a whole different animal. Something like DC, whatever DC next puts out, I'm gonna be so fucking skeptical of it. Even though Shazam and Aquaman were good and Wonder Woman were good.
Right. Well, they earned that reputation with you. You know.
And it's really the same thing with everything not MCU right now. It's like you've put out some stinkers. You can't do anything right. You're trying to rush these movies to the theater to make money. And look at Disney. People are like, oh, Disney, like they're just like they're gonna own the world now. Like they have all the money in the world. That's because Disney did everything right. Disney sat on a property and built it up when they didn't have to for how long was it? 11 years total, something like that.
Yep.
And look at it now. They have Star Wars, which arguably neither of us like Last Jedi. We love Solo. I'm very much looking forward to The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna not see The Rise of Skywalker just because I didn't like The Last Jedi. You know.
And The Last Jedi sort of grown on me. I've already had this discussion with you. I still don't think it's the best thing ever. But Disney has done everything right. Disney has earned my trust. DC, WB, every movie that comes out, I will not go see until I see the reviews.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. Same thing. Men in Black International. I said see it. I'm a fucking idiot. I can't believe I said see it.
Yeah, this is just a long-winded apology to our audience. Saying see Men in Black International.
This movie was set up to be awful. And I should have known that because all these movies are awful. All these movies that come out that aren't MCU fucking suck. Logan was the exception because Logan was a one-off. Which kind of go back to the Joker. That's my hope with the Joker. My hope with the Joker is that it's a one-off. Whatever they were planning to do with The Flash and Wonder Woman and Aquaman has nothing to do with this movie. This is just going to be a creepy, weird movie with the Joker, and it's going to be fucking great.
Right.
And same thing with Logan. Logan was one of my all-time favorite superhero movies. Logan was just so good because it broke the mold. It got bold with what it did. It didn't have studio execs trying to bring it down. Logan was just flawless. And look at Christopher Nolan with The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan handled The Dark Knight. I can't imagine DC, the studio, had much involvement in that other than just distributing it and having the name on it. This is DC. Christopher Nolan is one of the best filmmakers out there. And it kind of goes into another thing, too. You keep giving these average filmmakers these huge properties, they're going to keep fucking up. They're gonna just because they had one decent movie 10 years ago does not mean that they can make Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Does not mean that they can make Dark Phoenix. Even though fuck Simon Kinberg. Even though I think he directed Days of Future Past. I could be wrong. I think
Days of Future Past is Bryan Singer.
Oh god, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, we don't want to go into that.
So even Simon Kinberg, like you keep giving these people that just because they co-wrote a decent movie or directed a decent movie 10 years ago does not mean they can still helm all these major franchises. And given people like Steven Spielberg, they're not knocking down the door to try to direct something like X-Men or to try to direct something like Batman. Right. And I think this is why a lot of people are scared that you have a property like this that like the smallest thing you fuck up. But I also think like the MCU, you have a lot of directors now that are made because of the MCU. You have people like Taika Waititi that are coming into the MCU, bringing their style of filmmaking, which is totally different from the way the MCU was, and it works because they take their time, they know what they're doing. The studio with Disney knows what they're doing. Even people that want to shit on Kathleen Kennedy, who I might be mixing up James Bond and Star Wars. She's the one who has Star Wars right now, right? Kathleen Kennedy. I'm pretty sure she does.
She is
the Spielberg.
Yeah, she is the person who's handpicked by George Lucas to kind of carry on like the merger of Disney and LucasArts.
Correct. People that shit all over her because there's now more female roles in Star Wars and all that. Fuck you. I think Kathleen Kennedy has done an excellent job with every move she's made. Even though Rian Johnson, I hate Last Jedi. I don't think Rian Johnson's that great of a director. I still think that she's picking and choosing widely. J.J. Abrams. I said it. I saw Force Awakens 7 times. That's a franchise movie because it was above average and good movie that I saw 7 times in the movie theaters. Can you imagine if somebody saw Dark Phoenix 7 times in the movie theater?
The only way that would happen is if like they died in the theater and no one noticed for 7 showings. You know.
So if you want to get people like Brian Wong, who's only going to see MCU movies, get Brian Wong to like more fucking things that are not the MCU that are as good as the MCU.
Right.
Because so far, Brian Wong has no reason to go see Dark Phoenix or Men in Black or Pirates of the Caribbean or Stranger Tides to go to the movie theater because they suck. And the days of studios thinking that they can just put out pile of shits and they'll make $500 million off it are over. Like they're honestly, it's over. Given Pirates of the Caribbean made $1 billion, that was 10 years ago. Yeah. Like those days are over, and that like hopefully, like I said, thank God, because hopefully in the next 5 years we're gonna get movies that are made by good filmmakers that actually take the time to write these films and based around like, oh, this isn't just a superhero movie where people are punching and shooting lasers out of their eyes. This is a movie that has depth, it has drama, has good acting, has good writing. Like that's what people want now. It's the same with the horror thing that I brought up to you last week. And I'm now like going on my rambling, and I can tell I'm rambling. But like I brought up to you how the horror genre is being revived by like the whole dramatic drama horror thing. Is that people are no longer just trying to get you to do jump scares with these movies. They're trying to actually put depth to these characters, trying to add drama to the story. Right. And that's what people want nowadays. You know, that's just what people want.
Right. And I think it's hard to there's no middle movies anymore. It's either you have really no budget at all or you have a ton of budget. And if you fuck up your huge budget, well, then what? You know, Josh Trank, was that his name, who directed Chronicle and then Fantastic Four? Yes. I don't know if he really has anything on the docket coming up. Like, he screwed it up. And then there's someone like Gareth Edwards, who directed Monsters in 2010. That had a $500,000 budget, well received. And then he got $125 million for his next movie to direct Godzilla. And that was not great, but, you know, it made a decent amount of money. So he was kind of able to learn from that. And then he made Rogue One, which I thought was really good. So, but it's like, how many people mess up that second movie when they have so much more pressure, such a bigger budget, and then just never get another shot? You know, there's no room for error in Hollywood anymore.
And kind of like, just to go down the list and like just to kind of compare the years to you too. And there's some like, there are some anomalies on this, which we'll catch right away. Obviously, Avatar is number one, the highest grossing movie of all time at $2.788 billion. Mm-hmm. Good for Avatar. It's an average movie, which I don't think that, well, actually, going by name, which kind of like counters everything I just said, but it's Avatar, so it's a different story. And James Cameron, which is one of the A+ tier directors that are out there. Mm-hmm. I don't think obviously the next Avatar is going to pull in 2.78 billion.
I am honestly so interested to see, because I don't know, like, what if it does? I can't imagine it happening, but what if like somehow it captures that lightning in the bottle again, and we go see it 10 times again?
Then we get into a discussion of how James Cameron is part of the Illuminati and the deep state is inflating these numbers.
He made a deal with the devil, clearly.
Yes, and that's a whole different. That's a whole.
Us to go see it.
That's going to be a podcast we can never release.
Right.
That discussion, because the FBI will be knocking down our door. Avatar number one, 2.7 billion. 2.78 billion. Avengers Endgame right now, and I think this is going to change in the next 2 weeks. 2.74 billion.
Ooh, right on a seal.
Titanic, James Cameron again, 2.18 billion. Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and this is the movie that, like, if this did bigger overseas, like Avengers Endgame did almost $1 billion more overseas than what Star Wars did in the U.S.
Right.
And it did 800 million more overseas than what the Star Wars did overseas. Star Wars: Force Awakens had the repertoire overseas that it did in the U.S. Star Wars: Force Awakens would have clipped 3 billion, but that's a different story. Anyway, the first 4 movies we've named are good movies, even though I didn't like Avatar. I still think Avatar's a good movie that I just did not like. Avengers: Infinity War, obviously we loved it. That's at 2.04 billion. Because of Jurassic World, which I still think is a good movie and I liked, came out in 2015, 1.67 billion. Marvel's The Avengers, 2012. 1.5, which obviously everybody loves that too. Fast and Furious 7. This is like the Fast and the Furious series is the anomaly I was talking about. The Fast and the Furious series, Fast 7, which I didn't even see because I thought Fast 6 was average. Fast 7 pulled in 1.5 billion.
Is I'm not too familiar. Is that the last one with Paul Walker in it?
No, that was 6. 7 does not have Paul Walker.
Wow. So
no. Wait, I don't remember.
Okay, we don't know.
I don't remember. Either way, I don't remember. it kills overseas. So overseas has a big part of this too, and they could have a different mindset than ours. Overseas, it did 1.16 billion, which is nuts because it only did 353 million in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So like like I said, the overseas matters so much. Age of Ultron, which is arguably one of the worst MCU movies, the worst Avengers movie, pulled in 459 million in the U.S., 946 million in overseas. Black Panther at number 10 did 1.3 billion total, which Black Panther is my third favorite MCU movie, so it deserves to be there. That's a great movie.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
I'm not even going to name budgets anymore, but Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 at number 11, Star Wars The Last Jedi at number 12, and this is where we start getting in iffy territory. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom at number 13, which came out in 2018. I do think that this is one of the last movies that will have like the name recognition and also be a bad movie to pull in this money, because Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom stunk.
Yeah, Jurassic World 3 needs to be good, like actually good.
That movie pulled in 1.3 billion. I do think that that's one of the last movies on name recognition they're going to be able to do that. And Jurassic Park is that's tough. Jurassic Park's like on a plane of its own. Like that was just a groundbreaking movie. One of the first movies to introduce CGI like that. Like that's a groundbreaking movie that is going by name, which like I really don't think they can put out another stinker like that and still do that. 1.3 billion, holy shit. And then like kind of what we get into here is just we're literally going into all Disney, all MCU. Like we have the Minions, Incredibles 2, Captain America. We have Aquaman, which is at 1.14 at number 21. And then we get to something like Transformers: The Dark World, which came out in 2011 that has 1.1 billion. Like how the fuck how did Transformers: The Dark Side of the Moon make more than Lord of the Rings: Return of the King?
I don't know. It was a different time, inflation, I guess. But what we're saying is these movies need to start getting better, or they're all going to just lose to Disney forever.
Yes, thank you for stopping me because I was ready to keep going down the list too. And
that's all right. That's all right. Dylan, is there anything you want to add to this discussion before we sign off?
That's my it. Stop going to movies that suck. Don't go to these anymore. You know, I think that people like Brian Wong, they're not going to these anyway. But like, if you're still going to see movies like Men in Black International and Dark Phoenix before you come out and they're good reviews, and you're still going if they suck just to go, don't go to these movies anymore. Go to movies like Good Time with Rob Pattinson, which are good movies.
Go to those. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Brian.
I'm Dylan. Whatever.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Dylan, where can they find you on Twitter?
DJ Clubberlang. You can see me just spew nonsense.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.